Look at this red skirt. It's got all the features of a classic denim skirt, only this isn't denim, but it's easier to sew and I'm showing you how. Stay tuned. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and welcome back to my home in Brazil. Typical backdrop, only much greener than ever because it's been raining a lot. Very tropical, very humid right now. I'm very excited to be back home and to get into some sort of routine. Super hard leaving family behind. It happens every single year. Just got to keep up the cause via camera now and to try to settle back into this new life again back at home. I'm here to share with you the Quebec skirt from Itch to Stitch. Now this was a pattern that I knew was coming. I knew back in December that it was going to come. I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to meet the deadlines for the sewing part because, as you know, I spent part of the time at my parents' where I had all the setup to sew, and then my in-laws, I had nothing. I was able to sew the Quebec skirt the day before leaving my parents' home. I did it really quickly. I decided as a spur of the moment thing that I was going to make the skirt for my mum as the tester version. So I chose a really cool fabric and she wanted a skirt that color, so I was really happy to sew up the last project for her that day. On that day, I sewed 8 things in a 24-hour period, including the Quebec skirt that I'm going to share with you today. Here on Kenneth's version, you can see a lot of the details. She sewed hers in a stretch denim, and all the top stitching lets you see all the details. You see a fake fly there that makes it look really real. The cool thing about it is that it's pull-on. It's super easy to sew and super comfortable to wear. And on the front, you have your typical curved pockets that you'll see in jeans and denim skirts, including a coin pocket that makes it 3 pockets. And then at the back, you have 2 patch pockets and a yoke center back seam with a kick pleat so you can walk easily. And you have a center front seam, lots of top stitching. You can put rivets there. And the way that the waist is done is so easy. It doesn't have a separate waistband or a separate facing. It's just that it's longer on the top and shaped to follow the shape. It's not a rectangle. And all you do is serge the top, fold it under, sew it, and insert a 2-inch wide elastic in there. Super fun. I was really excited to make the Quebec skirt, and while I was cutting up my mom's skirt, I was making sure I had enough to cut my own. I was hoping, really hoping I could get enough left over so I can make myself one later in the same fabric, and I was able to do it, so I'm happy about that. All this top stitching looks like fake flat felt seams, which is awesome. It's always much easier than the real flat felt seam. I think it's always a nice detail with denim or solid fabrics. You need bottom weight stretch woven fabrics. That could be stretch corduroy, stretch denim, stretch cotton twill, that sort of thing. And you need about 20 to 30% stretch horizontally. You don't need vertical stretch, you just need horizontal stretch. Now, I would be very cautious about using knits, actual knits for this, because all the pockets and the details of the top stitching might stretch out vertically if your knit fabric stretches vertically. So I would rather stick to the recommendation and use a nice stretch woven. I used a stretch cotton. I'm really not sure how to describe it also because there's a bit of jacquard going on there in the way that it's been weaved. So you will see some texture when you see the fabric up close. It's very pretty, very appropriate for this. It was one of the fabrics I was able to pick up in Santiago when I went there with my son and my dad. Really fun shopping trip. If you've missed it, I'll put a thumbnail here so you can see how to look for it on my channel. Go and check it out. Because the Quebec skirt is a brand new pattern from Itch to Stitch, it is 20% off during the first week of its release. I will leave my affiliate link down below in the description box if you want to get the pattern for yourself. I'm sure you're going to enjoy sewing this skirt. It's a little bit different to what you're used to, but there are lots of steps in here that make it super easy. Of course, you'll see all that later on in the video. When you use my affiliate link, part of that purchase comes back to me as commission, but it doesn't affect your total price, so you're not paying any extra, and it's one way that you can support my work here on YouTube. The sizing is really good, from sizes 00 to 40 US, and that'll go up to a 62-inch hip. Now, the special thing about this one is that you just choose your size based on your full hip. Your waist, all you do is put in the elastic. That's how you will regulate that. So you don't need to worry about the waist and the hip measurement. Just choose your size based on your hip. Now, for my mom's version, she has a size 8 hip. Basically, when I measured the elastic around her waist, that was really comfortable. It was a little bit smaller than the circumference of the skirt on the top, but that's fine because it's going to hit her hips and then it's going to be nice and snug around her waist. So you won't see much gathers on the elastic there, but the skirt will hold up and be firm and really comfortable. Perfect fit for her by choosing it just on her full hip. Depending on the size, you have about 1 to 1.5 to 1 3/4 inch of negative ease at the hips, which is really appropriate for stretch wovens. I think a skirt made in a stretch denim doesn't look good if there's positive ease. Over time, when you see it, it starts stretching out and looking baggy. I think it does need to look snug and it needs to feel fitted when you're sewing it. You know, the fabric's going to have that elastane in there, it's going to stretch and it's going to look nice and neat. So I think it's well designed in that aspect. For me, I chose a size 16. So that's the difference. Mum's is a size 8, mine is a size 16. When you finish the skirt, you've got your facing folded under and your hem done. The length of the skirt is around 25 inches, which is a little long for what I like. This is designed to just cover the knee. And I tried it on my mum with the original length. I ended up taking about 1.5 inches of the length for her. She wanted hers mid-knee. I like mine above the knee, so I took about 2.5 inches of length from mine. So take that into account if you like your skirt shorter. It's better to just measure and make your pattern piece shorter than just waste the fabric afterwards. The skirt is straight on the sides, so you can take it away from the hem. It's not tapered in or flared out, so you don't need to worry about truing the hem. It's really easy to adjust. And of course, there's shorten and lengthen lines if you want to do it the official way. For sewing, I have filmed a lot for you to see, almost the entire sew along. I have skipped a few straight seams here and there, but you'll get a very, very good idea of how this comes together and how easy it is. Really hope it motivates you to try something like this. I know for a fact that when you see a skirt with lots of pieces and top stitching, you think it's harder than it could be. So I'm sure that this is the case. This is a lot easier than what you... Let's hop in and see the sewing.
It's a shame to watch us fade away, but all the beautiful things we made are great.
These are the pattern pieces for the Quebec skirt. This is the back right here. That is the back yoke right there. You can see that the yoke looks quite wide, and it's because it's got an integrated facing that will be folded in. That's why you don't see a waistband here. At the back, this area that comes out of the center back is going to be a kick pleat. In the front, we'll have a fake fly, and that's what that extra fabric is there for. There is the curved pocket opening. That edge has been stabilized with interfacing so it doesn't stretch out. This is the pocket facing. You can see it follows that shape. This is just a lightweight cotton. Those are patch pockets that are going to go on the back, and this large piece is the one that's going to go behind there to complete the hip area. And on the right side of your body, you have one single coin pocket. I'll show you why these pockets have interfacing also up closer. This is the front piece, and you can see that there's this extension for the fake fly. Now on the right side, you need to cut that out at the line that's on the pattern. I've marked it in blue with a friction pen. So I've written an R there. I've actually put this on top of my body to make sure it's on the right wearer's side. The left side will have the extension there, but the right side doesn't need it. And this is in the end to reduce bulk. So let's trim away the right side. Double check so you don't end up trimming the wrong side right there. And now we can set this aside. This is the center back. This is the bottom of the skirt, and there's going to be a kick pleat here. And just like we trimmed away part of the right side, it's the same for the skirt. So there's a line on the pattern right there. I've put it on my body to make sure this is the right side, and I've written an R there, and I'm going to trim away. This is the coin pocket piece. You just cut one that is going to go on the right side of you. You can see a notch there and a notch there. On the back, guiding yourself in that same place where the notch was, you put a piece of stay tape, or in my case just interfacing, 3/8 of an inch. Now this is a stretch woven. If I go like this, it's got a really nice amount of stretch. Usually when you do horizontal seams across the stretch, you get a wavy seam. So this is meant to prevent that. You fold this seam once by 1/2 inch, and then you fold it again. And then when you end up sewing here, this interfacing is going to make it not stretch right there, and you're going to have a really clean seam. I think it's super clever. This is the pocket that's going to go on the right hip, and you can see that there's a mark there where you're going to put this coin pocket later. That's where it's going to go. So that's important to mark. Whenever you are going to just do something on one side of the body, I suggest you actually put these on your hips to make sure you have the right one. Same as this, that it is actually going to be on the right side. It's the same concept for these patch pockets. Here on this side, you had notches right there, and then you would put your stay tape up against the notch right there, fuse it on, Then when you fold this twice by 1/2 inch, you end up sewing an area that's not going to stretch and it's not going to end up all wavy. I have already serged the edges. What I'll do first before anything is just make these pockets. Fold this in by 1/2 inch twice, top stitch, fold these in, have it all ready to be placed on the back. Same as this, I'm going to make this coin pocket and sew it on there, so that then I can just go ahead and start working on the rest. Here is the coin pocket. You can see that there is a straight edge there. That was serged previously, so that's done. And now I've got this folded in twice by 1/2 inch right there. This fabric presses beautifully, so the crease is very nice. And now I'm just going to top stitch this down. I'm also going to do one on the edge that is just for decoration, really, like edge stitching. So the fact that there's interfacing in there does make a huge difference. You can see how smooth the seam is. No stretch at all right there. I've serged that curved edge, and now this one I'm going to fold it in also by 1/2 inch. I haven't pressed it, but I can finger press this. That's done. And now you can see that on the pocket I have the mark right there. Now this is where this is going to go. It fits exactly where the mark says it's going to go. Now all I'm going to do is sew this curved edge right there down, pivot, and then go up, and that will fix the coin pocket in place. How cute is that? So lovely. This is now when we sew the facings to the pocket openings. So we just place these right sides together and sew them. This other side has been stabilized, as you can see. All I'm going to do is sew and then trim the seam allowance down a little and then snip into these curves, flip this to the inside and understitch. Okay, this seam has been magically sewn, trimmed and snipped. This is the right side of the garment. Push the seam allowance underneath the pocket facing, which would be your lightweight cotton, and then we sew on the edge all around. This will keep this contrast fabric from being seen. Even though this will be inside and no one will see it, I have changed my thread to a matching pink right there. That's how that's going to look. The pink won't be visible from the outside. I've given this a press. It's very neat. And now after that, we do the 2 rows of top stitching, the same as we're going to do everywhere. I don't have special presser feet this time, so I'm just sewing freehand, trying to go as straight as I can. After doing all of this, now you take your pocket bag, and your pocket bag is wrong side up. This is wrong side up, and you place that there. It'll follow the same shape right there. Now taking these separately from the skirt piece, we are going to sew them and serge them. Here I'm sewing the pocket facing to the pocket bag, right sides together, very curved, just do it carefully. The pattern says to sew 2 rows, one at 1/4 inch, one at 1/2 inch. I guess if you weren't using a serger, that would give you a nice sturdy pocket. In my case, because I'm going to be serging these and I have a 4-thread serger, I think 1 row of stitching is fine, and now I can just finish my edge with the serger. Here I'm just basting the pocket in place on the waist. There's a small area, and also on the hip. Basting it will just keep it in place, and then the front can act like one piece. After basting it there and there, I did this by hand just because it's going to be easy to remove later. You want to keep that together. You don't want that open because part of this is going to be folded in later as part of the way the waist is finished. So just baste that there to keep it in place, and then this can fly out later when the skirt is almost done. Here I have the 2 front skirt pieces. These are the centers. Remember, we had trimmed away one side. Sometimes in some women's patterns you have the zipper to the right side, which is how this skirt was designed. We are going to sew these right sides together like this. We're just going to sew it all the way down. So this is just a really long straight seam. On one of these you have a fly extension, and on the other one you won't. And then we're going to serge, picking up here and catching this like that. And then all the seam allowance is going to be pressed to the side that has the extension. It's going to go to the right. Okay, on the right side I top stitched this from here down to the hem, 2 rows. And now I've got this zipper extension, which is just fake, and it's all pushed this way, and I've hand basted that down so it doesn't flap anywhere and it stays nice. Also, I guided my hand basting along the edge of that serged area, and now this is a guide for me now to do some neat top stitching on this side from here down to there. My hand basting was my guide, so I didn't mind sewing over that. I did catch some of it. Now from that same edge I'm going to do one coming in 1/4 inch away, parallel to that one. These back patch pockets also have been folded up and everything. The interfacing is inside, so I'm just going to top stitch these in the same way I did the coin pocket. Okay, so that's ready to go. I had prepared the pockets ahead of time, and now I just place them on the back where the marks are. Just From experience and knowing I usually like them a bit higher, I placed these 3/8 of an inch higher than the pattern markings. Still plenty of space to sew the yoke in a later stage. This fabric is really easy to work with. I didn't really need to hand baste this down. I just pinned it, and I'm sewing the wider seam allowance first and then going all the way around, being careful to pivot carefully on each of these little corners. And now I'm edge stitching. Very enjoyable. I love top stitching. I think they look very nice. At this point, the patch pockets are on. Here are the 2 back pieces. Those are the yoke pieces. Now when you look at the yoke pieces, you'll see a little angle on one of the sides. The other one is pretty straight. That straight edge is the one that you match to the center back right there. That is the side seam. So I'm just going to sew these together, 1/2 inch seam allowance, press the seam allowance down, do the same 2 rows of top stitching. When I've got 2 backs ready, then I'll be back to sew the center seam, because that is when we do this little detail at the back. Here are the yolks sewn, top stitched, everything's ready, and then both back pieces are right sides together. There is a vent area at the bottom. There's a dot on the pattern, that's where you have to sew up to. So it's a straight seam from here to the dot precisely right there. Okay, here you can see the seam that's been sewn exactly up to that dot. And now from this corner, we need to snip right up to that dot there. I always get really nervous when I have to snip into things, but you can't do anything different. After snipping here, you can see that the seam allowances are together in this area, so you can serge from there on up. After doing that, when you open the skirt, the seam allowance goes pressed towards the right side, the right wearer's side, so that way. And then we're going to edge stitch and top stitch. Okay, here at the bottom we snipped into that dot, so that releases all this fabric from what's going to be the vent. But for now, we can fold the seam allowance towards the right as one. So I've got it on this side. Right from here, from the edge, I'm going to start edge stitching. I'm not going to back tack, I'll just do a knot at the back. I think it'll be neater, and just edge stitch that, and then we'll top stitch. Here we can see that first stitch that was done on this part where I edge stitched. So when I top stitch, I'm going to start 1 stitch below that. So it'll be just a hair below that, like 1/8 of an inch, but further away from the edge right there. The finishing touches of the vent come later. At this point, you've got the main back constructed. Now we can put the front piece on top, match them up at the side seams, and sew both side seams to long straight seams. This is the back center seam. This is how you see the skirt from the wrong side. The side seams have already been sewn. What I've done here is just serge the bottom of the skirt all the way from here to the other side. I've pressed the hem allowance up, but I haven't sewn it, it's just pressed for now. Now what we can see is that the left side has a longer area than the right side. Let's take this out of the way and get this side, the right side, that's a little smaller, and fold it in by 3/4 of an inch twice. You can see that there's that dot up to where we'd snipped in, and that's going to be perfect like that. Let's just give it a press. This is the left side that's longer. This one we also press it once and then press it again, and it'll be right on top of this one that we have under there. I'm going to give these two a quick hand base right there to keep them in place, because we need to top stitch from the right side of the fabric. So I'll just go ahead and do that. Basically you have this one on top of that one. This was the one that was wider, the one that wasn't trimmed, folded over twice by 3/4 of an inch, and the other one is shorter. It's still folded twice, but it continues that line from the seam there, and this one lies on top like that. Okay, at the iron I wanted to get this nice and creased so I don't have to worry about it. So before basting this, I went ahead and sewed my hem. You can see it's been sewn there. So I've hemmed it and then I've folded that. I already had the memory crease from the iron. And here you can see a simple few stitches there to hold this together. And now I'm going to sew. This is how the slit looks like from the right side of the fabric. You can see I've got my edge stitch, and then my top stitch is 1 stitch longer than the edge stitch there. But what I'm going to do is pick up from here and sew all the way down to there, and then go in here and start there and sew all the way down to there. At this point you can keep this completely out of the way, it's not going to get in the way of sewing this. That's one done, and now I can try to get this out of the way and sew from here to there. You can see these are still separated. Okay, now we can tuck this underneath and bring this one on. And now here is where we do a bar tuck. I'm going to draw it with chalk right there, and that will keep all of this together. I practiced my settings for the bar tucks on a scrap, and I settled with that. It's a zigzag stitch where the width is 2.0, so that's the width right there, and 0.5 makes the stitches really close together. That's how that bar tuck looks right there, and it holds everything neatly in place. I sewed the side seams, pressed these seams towards the back, so that's all done. And now all you need to do at the top is finish the edge. I serged my edge right there all the way around, and then at the ironing table I pressed it in towards the inside by 2.5 inches. I went measuring with a ruler and just went pressing slowly so I get an even amount everywhere. Now if you think, how can that fold on a curve? This is curved here, but this is drafted with this shape right here. You can see it's not straight, it goes in and then it goes out, and that's going to accommodate, and everything's going to fit really well. Now all I'm going to do now is sew it, leave a gap where you thread in your elastic. You need to have measured that against your waist, what is comfortable for you, and that is it. I'm going to start sewing this down somewhere around the back and then leave an opening to thread the elastic through. I'm going to guide all this sewing against the serged edge here. So easy. This is the easiest waistband ever because there's no separate piece of a waistband or a separate facing. It's just fold in, top stitch. So nice, so easy. Here on the front where you have pockets and everything, it can get a little bit bulky. Okay, through there I'm going to put the elastic through, and then once that's in, before I left my mum's house, I filmed the skirt myself, showing you all the details of the skirt, my mum's version, which has all the bells and whistles and all the details the skirt has. So let's see. This is my mum's Quebec skirt, and there is texture to this fabric. You can see like there's a bit of houndstooth going on there. It's a really interesting fabric, stretch woven, really nice. And here you can see the details of the skirt, how you have a wide facing that is integrated. It's actually just folded inside. There is an elastic in there which makes it really supportive up here without the gathering. Really nice. And there's a curved pocket entrance right here with a coin pocket. This goes on the right hip, super cute. And you have your pocket openings in there. So nice. Fake fly, sewn twice. Everything has 2 rows of top stitching, which I had to do without any special presser feet. I think they look really nice. I just concentrated. And at the back you have a yoke right there, center back seam, patch pockets, and then towards the bottom you have a vent for easy walking. Super fun technique. On the side seam it's edge stitched up to where the pocket bag is, just to keep it down and make it flatter. Quite a few layers right there. This is how it looks inside. You can see that you have an extra amount of fabric here for the fly front extension, but it is a fake fly, but it does give you the volume there. Pocket facing is a lightweight cotton, and then the pocket bag is the same fabric. Looks really neat. All the thread here for the serger was the exact same tone of color. The edge of the skirt on the top also is just serged and folded under by 2.5 inches. Very easy to do. It's really genius, I find. And just the center front seams, side seams, and at the back you see the yoke seam pressed down and the vent right there. On the vent I do have an area there that I hand sewed just to protect it. Really hard to put the serger through there, so there would be a raw area there that I just sewed by hand to keep it a little protected. Love it on the outside, love it on the inside. Love the opportunity to make this for my mum. She wears these a lot, and red one, can't go wrong. Mum paired her Quebec skirt with simple shoes, a blouse with a little bit of flowers, a little bit of red in there. I think it looks really nice and casual. I'm sure she's going to enjoy wearing it. I made my mother the new Quebec skirt from Itch to Stitch. Hers is a size 8. Hers is 1.5 inches shorter than the original. She wanted it to be mid-knee. I used a really nice red stretch cotton with houndstooth texture on it. It's a really amazing fabric. I think it looks and fits amazing. It's a really classic style that she always enjoys wearing, especially because it's a pull-up, so it's especially comfortable. I pulled out all the stops for all the top stitching on her pockets and everywhere. Fake flat felled seams. At the back you can see the yoke and the back patch pockets. Super enjoyable top stitching. All the bells and whistles you can find here without the fuss of an actual fly and a separate waistband. So it's a really fun pattern to put together. Love that I got to make it for her. My skirt is literally fresh off the machine. I just finished it. I got up early this morning and started sewing. So super happy I got it done in time for this new pattern release. I had little fabric left. I had to do a few changes here and there to make my skirt work, and I've got that footage over on Patreon, just a little extra there for those of you who are subscribed to my Patreon page. You can see how I got around to cutting out my skirt with the tiniest piece of fabric. This is mine. Now, one difference you can see comparing my mum's version, where her waist size is larger than her hip size. Hers didn't have much gathers here on the top. Mine does, because I actually use a straight size. So when I try the elastic around my waist, this is what's comfortable. And it is smaller than the hips, and that's why you can see some gathering there. But it's really discreet. When you put this on, you don't see the bulk or the gathers or anything. It's really, really good. So I'm really happy with that. I've got my fly there, top stitched. The fly goes on the right side. The fly on the right side is done by a few brands that cater for women, some jeans, but traditionally men's clothing and a lot of the clothes I sew have the fly on the left. It doesn't matter whichever side you do it, it's just a matter of aesthetics. But this one's on the right side. I have darker top stitching, and now one thing I have here is my back patch pocket. I had to add a seam because I didn't have enough fabric. I did top stitch it to make it look intentional. Otherwise, you would never know, and there was no other way I could get my skirt, you know, with the fabric I had. So that's what I did there. All the rest is the same at the back. At the front, I have fake pockets. This is totally fake. I just cut a piece and placed it behind it and sewed that down. Very neat. It looks like the real deal, but there's nothing there. I'll show you how that looks like on the other side. This is how my skirt looks on the inside. You can see there's a little piece of fabric just behind where the cut line would be, and it's just top stitched. I like this. It looks really real on the outside. It's just that there's no pocket there, and it saved me from cutting a big pocket bag, which I didn't have enough fabric for. I was obsessed on getting my red skirt. I love it so much. This fabric is so amazing. I was not willing to just give up and say, I can't make it, the pieces don't fit. You know, there's always something you can do, like adding a seam on the pockets or just adapting that front pocket. I was even about to not sew the pocket altogether. But hey, I got it. I love it. I know it's going to be a staple. Super comfy. Let's see it on. This is my Quebec skirt from Itch to Stitch, size 16. Mine is 2 inches shorter than the original. I used a pretty heavy stretch cotton with some texture on it. I really love this style. A pencil skirt is always me, and this one in red is really my favorite. I'm going to wear it so much. I love the comfortable waist finish. So comfortable, feels really supportive. Will pull up wide, 2-inch elastic in there. At the back you can see the yoke and the pockets. I did a few tricks to save on fabric, like adding an extra back seam. Here is my fake fly that no one will ever see because I never tuck in, and my fake front curved pockets. It's a hack I did to save fabric as well. They look so realistic, but there's actually no pocket there. At the back there is a little split for easy walking. Also super fun to put together. I love the skirt, love sewing it. Expect to see this skirt a lot when I style things with red or with black. I absolutely love it. Don't forget that the Quebec skirt is on sale for the first week, 20% off. I will leave you my affiliate link down below if you'd like to use it. I have a few videos lined up for you. I just have to get my act together and get them edited. I've been cleaning. You don't know the state my house was in inside, just covered in dust. Dust with the humidity turns into mud. So it's literally wiping mud off the furniture, off the floors. Yeah. Pretty bad, but I'm getting there. I'm getting my house clean. Once I've got my house clean, I'll be able to really dive in and focus on the channel. And I aim to catch up with the amount of videos I produce monthly by the end of the month for sure. At least have 10 videos for you. I'll see you again very soon with more sewing. Bye.